Today, Blizzard proves to us once again that they are not afraid to make significant changes. The never-ending merry-go-round that is balance of the heroes in Overwatch continues with some significant changes to several heroes. Being one of the gods of the patch notes, I figured it was my responsibility to read them off to you. Let's get things started with Ana. She might be seeing one of the biggest changes, and it's a big nerf. Her Bionic Rifle damage is getting decreased from 80 to 60, and the Bionic Grenade is having the impact damage reduced from 60 to 30, and the impact healing reduced from 100 to 50. So starting off with her Bionic Rifle, that is a reduction in 20 damage per shot. As it was, her damage was less significant than her healing, but now it's going to be notched down even further, making her less potent at being an offensive or switching into that offensive role. When you're topped off all of your team, the fact that you could quickly do 3 shots to take out any 200 HP hero, I guess they felt was a little bit too much. So now it's going to require 4 shots to do something like take out a Pharah. And then the Bionic Grenade had the impact damage and healing halved, the damage reduced from 60 to 30, and the healing reduced from 100 to 50. Now, the damage reduction I don't think is so much of a concern because she still has the impact that prevents healing on any affected targets. I think what's going to be toughest for Ana players is the reduction in impact healing, because the impact healing of Bionic Grenade was the only way for Ana to heal herself. All the other healers in this game have some sort of self-sustain. Zenyatta has his shield, Mercy has the fact that she regenerates out of combat for just a second, and then Lucio, he's got his AoE healing, which also applies to himself. Ana only has her Bionic Grenade, so if she's getting harassed by any flankers, for example, her Bionic Grenade was how she sustained herself. Someone close to her, she could toss it at her feet, deal some damage to them, and heal herself back up. But now that healing is drastically cut back, meaning that she's going to be a lot more vulnerable. In examples, if people were trying to run single healer setups, Ana would be good a lot of that time. But now, with a reduction in healing and as such a reduction in self-sustain, that becomes a little bit more questionable. So all of these changes, a rather significant hit for Ana. Next up, we have Junkrat, who is one of the heroes receiving a buff in this patch, although it's an interesting one. Junkrat no longer hurts himself from his own explosions. They're going to be rolling this effect into the passive Total Mayhem. What this means is, prior to this, Junkrat wouldn't get hurt by his mine, and you would use that as, in fact, as a form of great mobility. But he would still get hurt by his basic attacks as well as his ultimate. This reads that Junkrat is no longer going to be taking damage from any of his own explosions. So if your grenades bounce off a wall and come back to hit you because you missed an enemy hero, doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt. If you ultimate and then someone like Tracer comes up right behind you to try to kill you, you can pop the ultimate, kill the Tracer, and now no longer kill yourself in the process. Now, Junkrat certainly could use some tweaking if we're considering the fact that he is hardly ever played in the higher levels of meta as Blizzard's metric for rebalance. If that's what they're using, Junkrat got very little playtime, just plain and simple. So, yeah, some tweaks necessary. Is this exactly the one? I don't know, but it is a buff regardless. It's a change that doesn't hurt, but improves Junkrat. It's going to make it so that, say, if you're fighting in close quarters with an enemy and your grenades are bouncing all over the place, it doesn't matter so much. You don't have to worry about your positioning and trying to avoid getting hit, because hitting yourself no longer hurts. So good for Junkrat players. Moving on, the new hero is actually getting a nerf before she even comes out. I guess they felt like the magazine size of her fusion driver was a little too big at 200. They're going to be bumping that down to 150. They also nerfed her supercharger, increasing the cost by 15%. So before she even comes out, she's getting some nerfs. Again, it's hard to talk about how this would affect anything because she hasn't even gotten to the hands of most players to see how she actually fits into the meta. But apparently prior to release, they did felt she was a little overtuned, so they're reeling her back just just a bit. Sombra is getting a buff to her stealth. The sound effect VO distance for entering and exiting stealth has been reduced to 15 meters. And then also the cooldown for translocator reduced from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. Both buffs and both pretty good ones. Now, the first one, they might say that's weird with sound effect VO. How is that a buff? Well, Sombra just shouting every time she enters and exits stealth, I think is just way too much information for the enemy team, especially for an ability that's called stealth. It's not very stealthy if the entire enemy team knows every time you enter and exit stealth, especially exiting stealth. I think that's the biggest one. So now, if you're able to play properly with your distances and make sure that you're not next to or not within 15 meters of an enemy when you pop out of stealth, they're not gonna be alerted to where you are. That audio cue announcing for the whole team, and with proper headphones, people could tell exactly where you were positioned. Now, as long as you play properly with your distances and make sure you're far enough away, they won't know when you exit stealth because they won't hear that VO, and as such, they won't be able to tell where you are before you become visible. That's going to make Sombra coming out of stealth and trying to do something like hacking or finishing someone off that much more effective. And then not much explanation is needed for that translocator buff. It's a reduction in cooldown time, which means you can use it more often. That's a great thing. Winston is also getting a buff, and this is a buff to his survivability. Let me explain to you why. Barrier projector cooldown now starts when the barrier is placed instead of when it ends. So previously, you'd put down barrier, and then once it finished, once it was destroyed, the cooldown would start until you could use it again. Now that the cooldown begins as soon as you place it down, this, by its very nature, increases the uptime of the barrier, the time until you can replace it, and increases his survivability as a result. Winston has always really been one of the most reliant on healers tanks in this game. He's been one of the squishiest tanks, especially given his role, which is to go into the enemy backlines and try to take out squishies, but at the same time, be in the enemy backlines, which means the enemy team can turn around and blow you up. His barrier is what he relied on for survival until he could leap again. So having barriers up more frequently will make him tankier, or at least protect him until he has to go back and run to your healers on your team. I think especially with Ana's nerfs and her potentially moving out of a common pick, Ana was a great healer for Winston because she could heal from any distance. If she becomes less popular, Winston would definitely need some love, and this is something that could help him quite a bit. And then finally, we have got Zenyatta. He's got some buffs. First, the Orb of Destruction, the alternate fire recovery reduced from 1 second to 0.6 seconds, and the Orb of Discord can now target enemies through barriers. So his alternate fire recovery reduction it means he can do other actions quicker because it's got a shorter recovery time. The Orb of Discord, see, one of Zenyatta's real issues has been Reinhardt. A Reinhardt barrier, a Winston barrier, and now the new hero has a barrier as well. That prevents him from putting Orb of Discord on enemy targets behind said barriers. But now, at the very least, you can apply your Discord to whatever target you want, even if they are covered by any of the barriers in the game. And the number of barriers just keeps going up, so I think this was a much needed change for Zenyatta. That is it, guys. A little recap of all of the buffs and nerfs come into Overwatch heroes. I mean, again, these are some pretty big changes. Ana obviously getting impacted the most, though. Huge nerfs to her, and it's going to be interesting to see. You know, I guess I'm just interested what Blizzard is looking for. Is it just that they want Mercy to be played more often, so they need to keep knocking Ana down? I mean, she has received nerf after nerf over the past few months, and this might not even be the end of it. I hope so, though, because this is actually a big one. Like, these are some big negative changes for Ana players. I guess where everyone's picking up Mercy now. We'll see. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me here today. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hope you have a good one, and until next time, I'll see you later.